Hello and welcome to Rogue Artisans and Crafters. We welcome you, our viewer, to our show where we feature local artists and craftspeople here in Southern Oregon to be our featured artists about how they came about their art process, what drives them as artists, and get stories behind their art. And what influences art gives in their lives. Today we have the privilege of featuring local artist Leif Trygg, who does wonderful pastel paintings. I discovered Leif last fall when the show was just getting started, and I was visiting local art studios. I liked Leif's work immediately, and I knew I wanted to get him on the show. And today I'm pleased to be able to now introduce Leif Trygg and his wonderful pastel art to our audience. And so, Leif, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, I'm glad to have you here. And to begin with, how long have you been a professional artist?
Oh, a professional artist since I got out of college.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how did you get to doing the art that you're doing now with your pastel work?
I went to art school, and after art school I became a graphic artist.
Right, okay.
And I worked as a graphic artist for 20 years.
All right.
I had my own agency and I worked for corporations, doing graphic design and illustrations also.
Right. So you're doing like commercial advertising kind of work?
Exactly. And I worked in Silicon Valley, so I was working on for high-tech clients.
Oh, okay.
And high-tech companies.
Right. And so you did that for quite a while?
Quite a while.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then after you retired, then at some point you made the move up here to Southern Oregon?
Right. In 2005, I moved to Southern Oregon, to Ashland.
Right. Okay.
And actually, I was telecommuting. I was still working for a company in Silicon Valley at the time, and I was doing advertising design.
All right.
But I moved up here, and soon afterwards, the recession of 2008 came.
Right. Yeah.
And my employer went out of business, and it sort of forced me into early retirement.
Right, okay. Yeah.
And it was actually a good excuse to get back into doing fine art again.
Yeah.
Because I'd been doing it on the side while I was working as a graphic artist.
Right, okay.
And this gave me a chance to actually do it full time.
And now, principally, most of your work is done in pastels.
Yes.
Right? What is it about pastels that attracts you to using that particular media?
I'm an artist who started out drawing, and I started as a child. I did a lot of drawing. Always had a sketchbook.
Yeah.
Always was drawing something.
Right. Yeah.
And it was kind of a natural. Pastels is kind of a natural evolution. Before pastels, I was doing watercolors and acrylics.
Okay.
But my first love has always been drawing, because that's how I started.
Yeah, right.
And pastels, when I discovered pastels, I discovered a kind of a luminescence and a color quality that you can see in watercolor.
Right.
Which I really enjoyed. And it was kind of a marriage of painting and drawing for me.
Yeah.
So I love pastels. It's a great medium.
Well, that's something that I notice in some of your work is there's a luminescence that comes through in some of your pieces, particularly like the piece here behind me, for example. And so that was one of the things that really attracted me to your work when we first met in the fall. And but beyond the pastel, are you still doing other media?
Yeah, I'm currently doing acrylic paintings.
Okay.
And acrylics, and I do some mixed media work also.
Right. Okay. And most of your work seems to be landscape oriented. Is that like your principal subject, or are there other subjects that you do too?
Landscapes are something that I've been doing basically my whole life.
Right.
And when I was younger in college in those days, I did a lot of backpacking and camping, and I would take my paints with me and my camera, and it sort of got me into the outdoors.
Right, yeah.
And I love the outdoors, and that seemed like a natural fit for my style of work.
Right, yeah.
So I've just kept doing it.
Okay.
Although I'll do portraits, I've done murals and things like that, but it always comes back to pastels. I mean, it always comes back to landscapes.
Right, yeah.
That's really my first love.
Yeah. Well, you do really wonderful work in landscapes,
Well, thank you.
and in typically for when you start a given piece, what's the general time frame to completion for you? I mean, is it like hours, is it days, is it weeks? I mean, some artists have unique time schedules for their work, so.
Sure. Pastel can be like it's a big drawing, and depending on your style and how much detail you want to put into it, it can take weeks sometimes to do a large piece.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on actually the style you go to. If it's more abstract and you want to do large, say large color areas,
Right.
things like that, it can be more. It can be shorter. But it all depends on how much detail you want to put into it.
Yeah. Well, because like the image behind us here, the Lithia Creek piece. I mean, I love that piece a great deal. I mean, it's just incredible, the detail that's in it, the luminescence that I get out of it. So I would imagine that you probably got a great deal of invested time in
That probably took me 10 days
yeah.
to do that piece. Yeah, it took a lot of time.
Now, and so on a piece like that, when you're out, are you doing like an initial sketch?
I will do sketches and I take photographs in the field.
Okay, and then you come home
And then I bring them back to the studio and
work on the details.
Right.
Right.
Right. It's painting in the field is good for capturing color and things like that, but light changes so quickly.
Yes. Yeah.
And so you really have to, because of the time involved in doing these pieces, really have to do it in the studio.
So you kind of start out in like a plein air style of going to location and kind of
Right.
starting the piece, but you're not completing it at the same time.
No,
So.
no, I'll do some sketches and take photographs on site.
Right.
But then I'll come back and do the real work in the studio.
Yeah. And so like the pieces that you've brought to decorate or set with, these are like typically the sizes that you deal with. And there are, in the course of a year, I mean, how many pieces do you create?
Oh, I would create maybe a couple a week,
Yeah, okay.
a couple of pieces a week, and not large pieces. I do smaller pieces.
Yeah.
In my day-to-day work.
Right.
And I'll probably do maybe one large piece like this a month.
Right, okay. Well, so you stay active, but you're not overwhelming on the output. So you're really kind of concerning yourself with the quality of the detail. It seems, and that really seems to show in what I see in your work.
Yeah, you don't see a lot of duplication in my work. I think all my works are unique in themselves.
Yeah. And but while you're going out, I mean, do you have like some favorite locations that you're continually exploring for different views?
Well, the valley here, the south part of the valley is spectacular.
Yeah.
We have these great rock formations,
Yeah.
and it's wonderful. And I live near Lithia Park, so I spend a lot of time in Lithia Park, and I spend a lot of time on the various bike trails you have around here.
Right. Yeah.
I have an electric bike, so I can take my equipment on the bike and travel almost anywhere I want around this area.
Yeah. Great. Yeah.
And it works out. It's a nice system for me
Yeah.
to be able to go on the bike and then scout locations.
And so that's also a bit of exercise for you as well.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that seems like a fun way to kind of maintain your health and still do what you love doing.
Yeah, it works out for me.
Yeah. In the kind of the coloration that I see, you get there's a kind of a bit of a range. I mean, some coloration comes out pretty bright. I see, and then others, like the piece behind you, is kind of a little bit muted, and you got kind of like it's kind of like a it has that kind of a dark early evening kind of a.
That's the sunset. The sunset
yeah.
over Ashland Creek.
Yeah, and But when you want to get into like deep coloration, last time I dealt with pastels, it was in my youth. So I seem to remember that it was kind of a kind of be a messy medium. So
Yeah.
but you still and so I have to understand that when you're going for a certain coloration technique or looks. I mean, it's like multiple layers that you're having to lay down with pastels to get some of these effects, like the luminescence in the creek. I mean,
Yeah, that's multiple layers,
right?
very thin layers,
Okay.
and yeah, you just put them on very gently, one over another. Also use sanded paper.
Okay.
The texture of the paper is important to how many layers you can put on.
Right.
So if like these large pieces here,
Yeah.
that's sanded paper.
Okay.
So that absorbs a lot of pastel.
Right. Okay.
So you can put it on pretty thick.
All right. Well, we have a set of images of your work to bring up. So if the control room could start off, and we'll kind of talk about some of these images, and we kind of talked about this piece already, the Lithia Creek piece, which is I just am totally in love with. So let's go. We'll talk about the different locations that we're seeing here. So
Okay, and these are Southern Oregon creek locations.
right. Okay.
And I go out and explore locations, and I find this is in the fall.
Right. Okay.
And I try to capture the fall colors,
Yeah.
which the colors were just exploding.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. Yeah. It gets pretty amazing sometimes around here in the fall.
It does.
Yeah. So let's go on to the next image.
And that is the bridge in Lithia Park.
Right. Yes. Yeah. Let's recognize that, and let's go on to the next.
That is from the Japanese garden in Lithia Park.
Okay. Yeah.
And I like walkways.
Yeah.
I like to lead the viewer's eye down a path.
Right.
Or down, lead the eye is
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
is a feature of most of my work.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next.
And that is a hidden creek.
Okay.
A hidden creek in the fall.
All right.
And I love the oranges and the fall colors.
Yeah. Okay. Let's go on to the next.
That's the Lake of the Woods.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And that was from a camping trip I did up there about 7-8 years ago.
All right. Yeah.
And I love the lake up there. It's a beautiful spot.
Yeah, it is. It's a really wonderful scenic location. Now let's go on to the next.
And that's the sunset above Ashland Creek.
Okay.
Actually, that's actually from my backyard.
Yeah.
My property backs up on the creek,
Okay.
so I
Well, that
spend a
makes
lot of
for-
time out there.
Yeah, that makes for easy location scouting right there. Yeah. Let's go on to the next.
Oh, this is actually an acrylic,
Okay.
and this is from some photographs from my father. This is my father out on a boat,
Oh, okay.
and that is actually in Sweden.
Oh, wow. All right.
That's from some photographs taken overseas.
Yeah. Okay. And let's go on to the next.
That's
Multnomah Falls.
That's Multnomah Falls.
Yeah.
That's pretty recognizable, I think.
Yeah, that's one of the most iconic locations in the state. Yeah. Yeah.
And I like waterfalls. I include water in a lot of my pieces.
Yeah.
And I especially enjoy doing waterfalls.
Well, water has so many reflective properties to it, that it's amazing the variety of artistic interpretations that can be done just around water as a subject.
Exactly.
Yeah. All right, so I believe there's a couple more here. We got.
That's that's my mother-in-law's neighbor's fence.
Okay.
And I just love the shape of the fence and how it contrasted with the flowers and the bushes.
Yeah. Right.
It just had a really nice energy to it.
Yeah. And go on to the next one.
Oh, that is the Royal Hawaiian Hotel in Honolulu.
Yes. Yeah, we were just talking about that when I was at your studio just the other day.
And that's an acrylic. And that is actually from photographs I took during my honeymoon.
Okay.
Way back in the day. And it was just a fun project.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's a very classic Art Deco-y design and color to it. So I can see why that would make for an artsy subject to pursue as far as something to interpret and do.
Yeah, it was fun, and it's a nice break from the landscapes.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there's maybe one more.
I think one more. Oh, that's my house. That's my house.
Yeah. Okay.
And one of the things that I do is I do house portraits,
Okay.
and I've done a few here in town
Yeah.
for a couple of B&Bs,
Right.
and it's a fun thing. I stood out on my sidewalk and took some shots, and
Yeah.
went back in the studio and
So
shot my house.
so you do house portraits on a commission basis.
Right.
And so how often does that kind of an assignment comes your way?
Oh, I did one a couple of years ago,
Yeah.
and I did one this year. They're pretty few and far between right now, but I'd like to do more.
Well, maybe this this show will lead to some more additional house portrait assignments for you. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I do enjoy that.
Yeah.
And I do enjoy doing murals. I've done a couple of murals too in people's homes.
Right. Okay. And all right. And so so we've already talked about that you are available for commissions. What's the typical price range for your art? In terms of originals, and do you like offer prints of your work?
I do prints and cards.
Okay.
And a typical pastel, large pastel like this, would probably be in the $700-800 range for a large one.
Right.
Smaller piece would probably be $400 or $500.
Okay.
And it all depends on the size and the complexity.
Right. And then
And a house portrait I think I normally charge around $400 for a house portrait.
Okay.
But that includes cards
Right.
that people can send out for
Okay.
occasions and whatever.
All right. So once you would do the original piece, then you also produce a set of cards to go with that.
And then people can order more cards
Right.
to send out for events or whatever they like.
Okay. Well, that's really a great package deal right there. And in terms of like prints of your work, what's the size and price range of prints that you offer?
Typically, a small print would be, say, 11 by 14.
Right.
Print would probably run, a high-def print would be about $50.
Okay.
And up to larger prints, anywhere from 100 to 150
Okay.
for a large giclée.
All right.
Giclée, I guess you
Yeah.
pronounce
Right. Yeah. And those are unframed prices.
it. Those are unframed, but I also do framing.
Okay.
So I can help people select frames and the whole thing.
Okay. So you can do a full package.
I can do the full package.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. And in how many are you pretty active with the private commissions right now, or are you mostly doing like independent kind of assignments that you just kind of give yourself?
This is a slow time of year, the winter time. So this is the time of year where I'm actually working on new pieces and ramping up for the spring and summer.
Right.
When I get most of the visitors to my studio.
Okay. And yeah, because I noticed online that you seem to have you kind of take a winter break.
Right.
Right. And so you're just kind of beginning now to kind of restart your year. So
Right. I'm open for First Friday in March. This coming.
Right. And so people will be able. So you'll have your studio open, and so that day's a lot of the other galleries are also doing the same thing.
They're doing the same things.
Right.
And that's a studio. It's just the First Friday Art Tour.
Right.
That goes around to all the studios in town.
And typically you get a pretty good turnout.
Yeah, especially during the season, during the summertime. Yeah. Since I'm on Oak Street, right across from the old Armory.
Right.
So there are several galleries on Oak Street.
Yes.
And we get a lot of foot traffic there. A lot of people come through.
Great. And so at that point, someone could come into your studio, talk to you about a piece that they would want maybe commission you to do, or be able to purchase anything that you have right there.
Absolutely. There's artwork available for purchase. They can order people can order prints of what I have available.
Right.
They can buy cards. We can talk about commission work.
Yeah. And what's the price for your cards? I mean, that's, I'm going to assume that's like your most basic.
My most, yeah. Normally my cards are $3,
Okay.
which is pretty reasonable.
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah.
And I also sell them by the box.
Right. Okay.
So, and prints, I actually have, the prints are pretty popular these days. So people like prints of my work.
Yeah. And so what sizes of prints are you offering? Is it like,
The standard size would be 11 by 14.
okay.
And that, it's a good size. People usually don't have too much space to put up artwork.
Right.
And it's a good size to work with.
Yeah.
It's big enough so it's substantial, but it still will fit in a fairly small space.
Right. Yeah. But if possible, you can produce larger sizes as well.
yes.
You do like 16 by 20 or.
Yeah, 16 by 20 is a common size.
Yeah.
18 by 24
Right. Okay.
is a nice size.
Yeah. And so how did people get hold of you beyond your actual studio location? You have an online presence?
I have oakleafstudio.net
Right. Okay.
is my website. And they can visit my studio, which is right on Oak Street, 247 Oak.
Okay. And beyond your studio and your website, are there, do you have any other social media? Do you have Facebook or Instagram or?
We're just starting to get into social media
Yeah.
now. So we're going to be having, hopefully, a Facebook presence.
Okay.
And that's something that I need to sort of ramp up for the studio.
Yeah. Well, you're a former media marketing expert.
Exactly.
I
I should be up and running right now.
Yeah. Well,
But I spend my time doing artwork.
yeah. Well, that's a big priority. So yeah, I can understand where that focus kind of puts other things on the back burner a little bit. Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you feel that you'd like the audience to know about your work? I mean, I'm kind of thinking that I think I've covered a lot.
Yeah.
But if there's anything that I haven't thought of, what would that be about you and your work that you'd want the audience to know?
Well, I'm available for commissions. I mean, I would enjoy doing more house portraits.
Yeah.
That's something that I do enjoy.
Right.
And I would like to grow that part of the business if I could.
Yeah.
But I'd just like having more visitors
Yeah.
to my studio.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, we'll hope that this show will help you in that regard.
I hope more people will know about Oak Cliff Studio.
Yeah. And that address is
247 Oak.
247 Oak Street
Yep.
here in Ashland.
Mhm.
Right.
Yeah, right across from the Armory. It's
Right.
pretty easy to get to.
Yeah. Okay. And so I think we're getting close to the end of the show at this point, if I believe. Okay. So yeah. So Leif, I just want to thank you for coming on to the show.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to talk about your work. I love the quality that I see in your pastels. It's some really beautiful stuff, and I wish you the best for building further on your art career, because you really do just really wonderful stuff.
Oh, thank you.
So at this point, we have reached the end of our show, Rogue Artisans and Crafters, and we want to thank you at home for joining us and learning about our featured artist, Leif Trygg. We thank Leif for being our featured artist and appearing on our show to discuss his life and work. We also want to thank our crew who have made it possible to put this program together, and to thank RVTV for the wonderful studio facility, which allows us to produce shows such as this one. If you'd like to become a studio producer and create your own public access show, you can contact RVTV to learn how. You can watch this show on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. and Thursday evenings at 11:30 p.m. on Channel 15 of the Ashland Home Network, and in the rest of Southern Oregon via Charter Cable on Channel 182. You can also find all episodes of Rogue Artisans and Crafters at archive.org. You can also visit RVTV online at rvtv.sou.edu to find the streaming of all RVTV shows. You can follow our show on Facebook by visiting and liking our official show page. Just search for Rogue Artisans and Crafters. You can learn more about Leif Trygg and his art by visiting his website at oakleafstudios.net. And so I'm your host, David Glamour Dave Nienow, and we will see you next time.